Welcome back to Fast Attack, Slow Release. That's the name of this podcast that I don't think I told our guests about. I'm Nate Brown, your host, and we're sitting with Heavy and Nick from the band Black Magic Caravan. How's it going, guys?
Good. Going good.
Good deal. I wanted to bring you guys in today because we just recently finished up recording a single for you, and you guys did something that was pretty unique in my experience. With you built up a bunch of marketing hype and did like pre-sales on the release of your first single. So before you guys had released anything, you had already built up a bunch of hype about you, which I thought without like a giant record label budget with a huge PR person would be kind of impossible. But you guys managed to do it. How'd you do that?
So, I mean, nowadays we of course have the easiness of social media, and all of these companies is like $20 and we'll put you on all of these big companies without you having to worry like CD Baby and like DistroKid and that.
Mm-hmm.
So the big thing is just accepting that social media is a thing, but also realizing there's a gap between the younger generation with social media and the older generation. So you kind of have to market to the younger generation with the social media.
Mm-hmm.
And to the older generation, you have to do flyers, word of mouth, and stuff like that, and kind of get your name out there. It's that whole thing, make you sound bigger than you actually are, so that you get people kind of interested in you and that. So when you put your music out, they're just excited about it. They're excited to be, you know, it's this older generation had the cool experience of, bands like Zeppelin came to my town when they weren't even a big band, when they weren't top of the charts or anything, and I got to see them, and I was one of their like first fans.
I heard about it because of a flyer under my windshield wiper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So it's kind of recreating that, because that us being a rock and roll band, having that kind of bringing that community back for the older generation, and then giving it to the younger generation so that they almost can connect in a way, and kind of, you know, because you drive with your dad for a couple hours, he's going to play some rock and roll or some country, or, you know.
If he's a good dad.
Yeah, if he's a good dad.
Be a good dad, everyone.
Be a good dad. But yeah, just kind of bringing that, because people want to relate to each other. They want to have this huge community that they feel a part of. And that they
people
can
crave connection.
Yeah. So just kind of creating that through social media and through word of mouth and flyers and actual physical promoting, which really isn't that expensive nowadays. You got like Office Depot and all of that stuff, so you can print flyers for just
we got a band thing we live by is rock and roll on a budget. You really don't have to be big named rock stars with the, like you said, like label and everything to get stuff done. You just got to be creative, and I think something to bring into light with, like, you know, going out and marketing before you do something is, you know, a big thing we had about it is, so our dad was the guy that brought up, you know, the whole, what if you guys did something like Black Magic Caravan is coming? And we were like, man,
that was your dad that came up with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which our dad is, even though he's been a salesman his whole life, incredibly good at marketing. But he brought that up, and then, you know, of course we took that and we're like, yeah, that's a really good idea. And we started brainstorming, okay, how do we apply it and stuff, right?
Sure.
And a big thing that I felt was important about doing it is that, why do we need to get people into us once everything's already happened?
Yeah.
You know, when I take part in things, it's more fun for me to catch things as they're happening or about to happen than to be the guy that shows up at the end of the party, right?
Sure.
You get there at first, it's a little awkward, not everyone's there, but
you want to get there before all the alcohol shows up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Because then when the party starts happening, you're already there, you're already feeling good, you're having a good time. Instead of showing up and everything's happened and you're trying to play catch up with everybody.
Yeah, there's like 3 crusty Cheetos left on a beer pong table. You don't know how long they've been there.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And
I want to, before we get too far away, I kind of want to know, like, how did you, like, so you guys, you made your own flyers then. How did you distribute them?
Yep. So a lot of it was social media presence at first. Then we started doing, you know, like things like we made our tickets. Shout out to our bass player, Brandon Richter. He did that. He did some really cool flyers on Facebook as far as the cover art and the backdrop. We actually had a moving one that went Black Magic Caravan is coming in a sequence.
Because he does that for a living, right?
Yeah, so he owns a t-shirt company called Entropy Inc.
Inc.
And he, you know, prints shirts and everything.
And
but
then he also works for a company on, I believe it's like photography gigs.
Yeah,
and
it's
stuff
photography
like that.
gigs.
Okay.
They go shoot events and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so he, through his shirt business, you know, he has to design logos and everything to eventually go on the shirts and stuff. So he's very capable of those things. And so, you know, we the importance is you, whether it's getting people to see it and look at it or get it in their hands, physical versus social media, is you got to get something out there, because what that does is, like we talked about, we dropped flyers for our last gig we did, and they gave us, Jess over at Mountain West Hard Cider gave us 5. We got rid of them that day and went back and got more. And we were talking in the car and we're like, the point of this stuff is not that everyone there is going to go, man, I saw this flyer at Robbie and Coffee you guys threw, and 400 people showed up because of it. It really is about that thing where like everyone that goes through is going to see that, and you're going to get more traction, more people, and eventually what happens is
the flyers and everything, they all said Black Magic Caravan is coming.
Yep.
And you're just putting those coffee shops, bars, just like wherever.
Yeah. So
okay.
We
so
did,
you were you were doing the actual and this is what I think people have forgotten how to do, is actually like physically hit the pavement, because it's so easy for people to just be like, $15 Facebook ad, done, cool, come to my show, can't wait to see everyone there.
Well, and this is something Nick can extend further, because he's a lot of the thought behind this is it's a pocket that's so gone now. Everyone overlooks it. They think, oh, we've moved forward and social media is relevant. I will always back that up. But you also have to look at how many bands aren't going out and putting flyers out. How many bands aren't doing like we did, our gig again that we just did. We went and met everybody. We went down there and we said, hey, we're the band. We're playing with you guys. This is our plan. This is what we're doing. Want to meet you. We did a promo video. We did all these things to do a ticket giveaway and stuff. And they were like, wow, like we've only had one other band do this in all the bands we've ever booked and played with. And it's like, why though? Because that's your presence. And if you want to extend on that, Nick, go ahead.
I mean, it's that whole thing where it's to like have a professional video. Of course, you've got to hire people and stuff like that. But to have just a video for something that people can like scroll through and see, and that you just need your phone. Like you don't need that much stuff nowadays, because you got a super high quality phone
you've got
in your phone,
decent microphone and a passable camera.
Yeah, and as far as on the physical media, it's that whole thing, like people are always out doing something after they get off work, because they don't want to just be home. Sometimes they do, but most of the time they want to be out doing something. So you think, where's the highest traffic of places? And most of the time, business owners will let you put stuff up.
Yeah.
It's just talking to them. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're like, no, I'm not going to do that.
We're not that kind of establishment, sir.
Yeah. And it's just that whole thing, the worst you're going to get told is no. So, but if you ask 100 people and 10 of them are like, yes, you got your sign in 10 people's establishments.
Yeah. And if your dating life was anything like mine, then like you're super used to hearing no anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
It's the beauty of being in a band.
Yeah, right?
So basically then, like what you guys are saying is like, you got to do the work.
Yep, absolutely. I think an important thing to just extend a little on that is that the overall idea of it, the reason we marketed before the single and everything is to get your name out. And a lot of people would say, yeah, you don't have like the music out, your product, whatever they want to call it. But the thing is people see it and they start thinking, oh man, I've been seeing that Black Magic Caravan's coming a lot. What's that about? What's that about? And then when you actually drop something, they're already kind of waiting for it.
Yeah.
And there's that fuel behind it.
Yeah. I guess like hype kind of is a product in its own way.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, look at the newest Tool album. They've been hyping that shit up for like years.
13 years.
13 of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people have still stayed with it for that long, and they're like, it's out, everyone, it's out, and stuff like that. So it's getting that one person to be excited will get more people interested.
I agree. I think in the case of the Tool album, I hope I don't make anyone mad, I think the hype was a better product than the release.
Yep.
Personally.
And that's usually how it goes.
I love Tool. They're one of my biggest musical influencers, but I was like, I think I've heard this record before.
Yeah.
Seemed like kind of what's going around from most people.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm not here to criticize
and
someone's music.
There's also a point of overhyping.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
And that's a perfect example of, 13 years, why would anyone even bother waiting that long for an album?
And in Tool's defense, like, they didn't build any of that hype.
Exactly.
I mean, maybe they were. Maybe that was a deliberate thing. Like, let's make them wait for it. Like, I mean, I wouldn't put it past someone. I think it's a brilliant strategy. But like, I mean, it's kind of like with most like politics or anything like that. Now, like most of the hype comes from other people.
Exactly.
Which ties into this theme, right? Is that you start getting people talking about it. it's gonna inevitably build it up. And that's what a lot of bands overlook is that, yeah, it's cool to have 100,000 followers on your Instagram or your Facebook and stuff, but if those people aren't going out in everyday life and talking about you, does you no good.
Yeah.
Could I have 100,000 people buy a T-shirt or come to a show, please?
Exactly. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's that thing is, starting off any business, you're always going to take a hit the first few years.
Absolutely.
That's just how a business works.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, like, even our government realizes that with certain tax breaks.
Yeah.
So it's realizing, I'm not going to be making money off of this band for a little bit anyways, so I might as well take the money that I have extra and put it into growing this product because, this is a dream. Like, you want to do it. You gotta put some elbow grease in and just put a little bit of cash in when you have it and just go for it. So,
and you bring up a good point that, you're a band for most people, their whole life is not like a profitable thing.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have kind of managed to devote a lot of your time and energy to the band. So, I mean, what do you do to help like fund that and fund the band? Like, it seems like you guys, like you're not starving.
Yeah.
Close.
Yeah, we're pretty damn close. Like,
I mean, I could tell you every word on the back of a ramen wrapper.
yeah, for real. I mean, it's making sacrifices. Like, I mean, shit, tomorrow I got to go donate plasma to pay my bills. And it's just, you gotta figure it out. You got to cut a lot of stuff out. Our credit's crap. Our living situation is very fortunate for how much we make each month, but we're just figuring it out. And it's that thing, like, you're not going to become a billionaire overnight.
Right.
You're not going to become a millionaire overnight. Hell, I'm not going to make $100,000 probably by the time I'm 30, unless I'm really lucky and I'm really fortunate with this. So I might as well be prepared for the long haul of that and get used to, like, for me, my big things are like, I got to have a gym membership. I got to be able to buy a video game every now and again, so I have some enjoyment out of something else.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then I gotta be able to eat, and that's like it.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
I mean, basic necessities, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Food, water, video
That's
games.
key.
Yep.
Yeah.
Something I'll throw on top too is that, I mean, to clarify, it sucks being broke. I don't think there's anyone that absolutely loves being broke. It's not that glamorous, especially when you're in a rock and roll band and everyone thinks you're out living the high life and you're like, man, yeah, we're sitting at home rationing our last 2 packs of ramen.
Yeah, you know what I had for dinner was Pedialyte.
Yeah, exactly. And the guy saw me the other day slamming a jar of peanut butter. I'm like, what are you doing? I was like, this is my lunch, just straight peanut butter,
protein.
But there's an importance though of like, when you're a young band and stuff, you really have to understand the value of, again, like this is why we bring up the word business and product and stuff. It's not because we're these like business hungry guys in a band. It's that you have to understand that's really what it comes down to everyone else is you have this product you're selling and you have to get good at it. You have to be able to fill whatever event you do. Like we did our single release, we were able to get a bunch of people out for that. That matters just as much as a show of your own, or like the show we did for Mountain West Cider where we promoted and did, video promo and all that, because the whole idea of it is like, yeah, we want to get more people at our events, but we want to get good at that.
Yep.
And being broke allows you, because if we had money, we could just throw money on it, buy a bunch of advertisements and probably honestly pay people to be there if we needed to look bigger than we really are and whatnot. And so the one beauty of being broke is it really hones your skills at being good at being in a band, marketing, all those things that come along with actually being in a band when you don't have the money to pay someone to do those things.
Yeah. I think it brings about its own reward too. Like you definitely, I mean, and this is like, I think everyone knows this, but like you appreciate things more if you struggle for them.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
But I mean, and it's kind of like a really recurring theme that pops up when I talk to people. I think I've actually used that phrase in discussing this before. Like everyone I talk to, it's about the same truth, is that you have to put the work in and like you've got to commit to it.
Yep.
You can't just kind of coast along and just hope it comes to you. Like you got to do the work, you got to commit, and there's going to be some sacrifice.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Well, something to throw on that kind of ties in with the flyer and the street marketing and stuff. We like to joke that we're like semi-rock historians, because the whole idea is like, we didn't grow up with like Aerosmith out on the road and they're this new band that dropped their new record and whatnot. And the Stones have been around for decades and stuff. And so you have to go back and study things and really pay attention to like how they made these records and what they used. And one big thing that always stood out to me was in the 80s scene when like Motley Crue and Poison and Van Halen, all those guys were coming up. They used to get in flyer wars. And so they would go out and there would be the popular street poles on the Sunset Strip.
Mm-hmm.
Van Halen would go up and deck the thing out, and Van Halen, and then Motley Crue would wait, watch them, and they'd go put Motley Crue over all of it. And the next thing you know, Guns N' Roses is coming up, throwing all their stuff on top of theirs. And so they'd get in these wars. But the whole reason they did is because they knew if all their stuff was out there and people saw it, people would come to the show.
Yeah.
And so it got competitive in the sense it's like, oh, you're not getting the one right in front of the Whiskey A Go-Go. That's ours. And so they would fight all day. And like, I heard a story one time that Nikki Sixx said there was a point where they were spending like $300 a week on flyers just to outcompete Van Halen. It became a budget thing. They were trying to buy more flyers to put over top of Van Halen.
That's just, I mean, if you've ever been on Sunset Boulevard, you realize it's not exactly like a clean street for the most part.
Not at all.
I didn't realize it was Motley Crue's fault.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're a big part of that for sure.
I knew I didn't like that band for some reason.
Yeah, it's that whole thing. Like, you go, hey, do I need a pack of Top Ramen, or do I need to promote this so I can get a show so I can, later down the road have more than Top Ramen.
Yeah, right. Making an investment in your future, basically.
Absolutely.
And I mean, nowadays there's quite a few things like we've done medical studies for years and stuff like that. Like there's ways to make
like
money.
You've performed them, or you've been subjects in them.
Subjects.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
We're gonna perform them eventually, though. We're gonna be the first band to do that. I'm calling it.
We're gonna be the band that cures AIDS.
Yeah. there ain't nothing we'll play anything at this point.
Yeah, right. No, but I mean, it's that whole thing. Like, if you look for ways to make money, there's ways to make money. You just gotta do your research, find out what's safe, and make sure you're not doing something that's going to harm your body, so you can't pursue your dream.
Yep, can't perform and whatnot.
So, I mean, that's why we don't really work high labor jobs, is because you go to work all day, you pretty much crush your hands and your back all day, and no way you're holding a guitar. Like,
Yeah.
so especially doing a 3-hour gig after, like,
No way you
you'd
have
be
the energy to
crying.
even practice. Or,
Yeah, exactly.
Yep,
So
I've done that grinding. Yeah, you end up not practicing and sleeping all the time, and then dreaming about the day you'll get it all figured out, and it just doesn't work. Listen, though, we have one good secret: put some eggs in your ramen, and it will change everything.
That is true.
Yeah,
that's. I think if you've been to college, you learned that trick at some point. It's kind of like, I have cabbage and a bottle of Bud Light. Guess we'll see how these two pair.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, and that's a kind of a good point to bring up. Like, how I view it a lot is like college. You're going to go in debt over this amount of time because you're getting what you need to pursue this career.
Yep.
So it's just looking at it like that. Like, you don't hear of a college kid that's all like, dude, I'm living the high life, unless their parents are just loaded. Like,
Yeah, the trust fund kids. And
Yeah,
the rest of
exactly.
us are buried under mountains of student debt.
Exactly. So it's like, people are like, dude, it's taken me like 10 years to even get close to paying off my student loans and stuff like that. And you almost got to view it like that. Like, I don't necessarily mean like take out loans or everything for your band unless it's completely necessary, like a van or that.
Yeah, or a big tour or something.
Yeah, exactly. But you definitely need to put the money into it and just you got to figure it out. So there's ways to figure it out. You just got to look. You got to be able to, like, if someone gives you help, just be like, dude, thank you so much, instead of being like, no, my pride won't let me do that.
Yeah, just be grateful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pay it back when you can.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think most of the bands that you hear about that have made it, or at least like rock bands from the day, every one of them pretty much have that same story, right? Like,
Absolutely.
I had to choose between beer or food, and if I buy beer, I'll be full and I'll be buzzed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, we were talking before we started recording. You guys are out there playing shows now, and that came directly from I'm guessing your marketing effort, because I mean,
Yeah,
you built
Yep.
you built this hype, and then we did a single release party here at the studio, and you guys invited like bar owners, club owners. There were a lot of people here that night.
Yep.
And I mean, like, did that translate directly into the gigs that are being
I would say
booked
so,
right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, it's just that thing, people get invited and we're like, guys, we're selling out a 50 capacity place.
And we're releasing the single that night.
and,
like, we don't have music out yet.
Pretty much less than a month. Like, that's showing these people that you're asking to work with, like, I'm here to do the effort. I'm here to promote. I'm here to sell this place out.
Mm-hmm.
So that not you're making money off of it and I'm making money off of it. Like,
that's an interesting perspective, because I didn't think of it that way. Even as the party was going on and like we were mingling with people and talking, like that didn't occur to me until you just said it, Nick. Was that like you're demonstrating an ability to get people to turn out?
Yep.
And that's a valuable thing to a bar and club owner.
Well, here's the thing. I was talking to a buddy of mine. Shout out to Connor Giles. He used to work up at Park City Live up here, and we were talking the other day at the bar. He had won one of our contests to get a shirt and stuff, and he helped. He was one of their big promoters up there at the time, and he was talking about how he's like, the hard part is, we were talking about like the marketing and stuff. And he brought up how usually when they have good rock bands up there, or a blues band or indie, whatever, genre it is, as far as it's just a physical band up there playing, they don't advertise because they know those bands are going to sell it out. But the problem they have up there is, and I don't think a lot of bands know this, is that most venues don't necessarily make money off your ticket sales. It's off of the alcohol and the food and whatever else they offer in that realm. And so he was talking about, he's like, because what he was getting at is he wanted to get into getting a club and booking shows and doing events. And the owner was like, no, you probably want to look at this and really see what it's like before you get into it, and showed him kind of the numbers. And anyways, I'm getting too long, but what I was getting at is, that falls back on this idea, like we were trying to get across is, yeah, you're a band and your ultimate job is to be successful and get more people and grow your band and get bigger shows and everything. But you also got to understand, you need to bring it to the table for the bars you're working with and the venues and arenas, clubs, whatever it is at the time. You do need to show them like, hey, yeah, we're a big band and people will come, but this is also why you want us here, because they're going to take part in your business and they're going to buy drinks and they're going to hang out and they're going to have food and stuff. And if it's a local show, they're probably going to come back and hang out here because they'll enjoy the place. Like, you got to show what you bring more to the table than, hey, we're a band and we play a show, pay us and we'll leave.
Yeah. You've got to demonstrate, like, you've got to build your network, and then you've got to demonstrate to that network and follow through that, like, it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah. Right.
Well, and the big thing too is not only do you have to do it with the bar, you have to do it with your local scene. You've got to, I mean, like, when you play a show, you should be staying that whole damn show. Like, you should be supporting those other people, because you're not only are you going to have the network of the bar owners, of the club owners, of the venue owners, you're also going to have this network of other musicians that you're friends with. And it's that whole thing, like, if you're headlining on a show, you still need to have people open up for you.
Yeah.
Like, usually you can't just, you're not freaking Aerosmith or like Neil Young, who have hits just to dispose of in a set for 3 hours. Like, you got to be able to have your original music, but you're going to be short time. So you got to fill other spots and kind of make that happen. So you got to keep that relationship with local bands. And,
absolutely. And I think just out of just like a respect thing in general, just empathizing with the band. Absolutely. And I think with a lot of local shows, it's funny because, like, headlining a local show, you'd almost be more successful playing first. Yeah. Because everyone comes out at the start of the night, and then when that band finishes, and if that band leaves, everyone that came with that band is leaving too.
Yep.
And if you stay, like, you're helping with, like, keeping the crowd that came to see you there and making it like an enjoyable experience for all of the bands, not being like, man, like, we went on at 10 p.m. and it was a ghost town already.
Oh yeah. Well, and two, it gives people more things to do, because you want to push the music scene, and to push the music scene, you got to make people want to come see it. So if you show them a show, hey, here's 3 bands, we're all really great, and a ton of people like them, and they're going to be like, oh, I have 3 bands now that I like to go see. Yeah. I can look for them and be like, hey, like, date night, let's go see this band again. They were super fun to watch. Yeah. And stuff like that. You're bringing more people out by doing that, because you're giving giving options to it. And it's that whole thing, like corporations in a way have slurred our vision and made it so we want to just like, it's cutthroat. It's always cutthroat. And in some instances it is, but most of the time it's just like, you've got to build a scene to take advantage of a scene. And Utah's music scene is so on and off and wishy-washy that like, we've really got to build a scene here.
Yeah.
We've got to make something that, like, you know, if people are only getting paid $150 for a gig when they have like 6 members, like, we got to make a scene so we can get together and be like, that's not okay. Like, we just won't play your club. Like, you've got to pay the people what they deserve as musicians, because they're coming out and doing the work for you and bringing people in. But we also got to deliver on that. It's a two-way street.
Two-way street for sure.
Yeah. So the other thing about playing shows now, we were talking again, like before we started recording, you guys were asking me for some advice on like dealing with sound guys and getting the mix out that you know you're hoping for. So Nick, you mentioned, you know, you play with a wireless unit, which affords you the ability to be able to like walk out away from the stage and hear what the audience is hearing. And I mean, feel free to like correct me when I start being wrong, but you guys were mentioning like you just played this show. We won't say the name of the place, but and you know, you wandered out and like, where are the guitars?
Yeah.
And I mean, you asked me a question. I think it's a really valid question, and maybe one that more bands should be asking. Was like, how do I navigate a situation with a sound man or woman, a sound person who, you know, like, we're not satisfied with the mix, and like, how do we make those mix requests without like souring relationships, right? Yeah, I mean, you were saying, you know, hey, could we get more guitars? And the sound person's coming back like, I don't have any room to give you.
Yeah.
And then you guys, you pulled up a video, you showed me the sound, and it turns out like, so sound guy mics the kick drum and vocals, which for a small club, pretty common.
Yeah.
And when you were playing the video for me, like the first thing that jumped out at me was, you know, the guitars don't need to come up, like the vocals need to come down.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can touch on that later, but I mean, the issue of navigating a sound person is like understanding there's a thing called stage volume, right?
Yeah.
And then sound guy or gal, I keep saying sound guy, sound person, you know, they do only have so much headroom to give you, right?
Yeah.
But the issue that we encounter with a lot of sound people, and like, I don't know if you go to a show at like an arena or whatever, and it's the same issue, right? Like the first band comes out, sounds pretty good, and then like the second band comes out, like you're a little bit louder and you still sound good, and then by the time like the last band comes out, all you hear is the echo of the room, right? And it's because people forget that a fader goes down.
Yep.
And I mean, this can be true for like, you know, bands, DJs, whoever. It's, you know, I think one of the best things to learn about playing a show and about being a sound person, being a band, is actually like remembering to control your sound.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and that's something that I actually really appreciated about recording you guys, is like, you already kind of seem to have that down. Like, this is where the vocal goes. We're going to strip down the guitars, and about like leaving space for more to come. And that's true when you mix too.
Something I wanted to hit on, you were talking about with, you know, sometimes sound guys forget faders can go down and whatnot. And something I want to hit on that I feel like, you know, there's this whole debate with music right now with live bands. There's a lot of these quote unquote lost arts, you know, whether it be the tone knob on the guitar, pulling the mic back and forth to get some dynamics out of your voice, whether you're going loud or not. I think sound guys are so undermined in the sense that doing sound for a live band or any sort of show is an art form in and of itself, right?
Sure.
Because how I would picture it, right, is a good sound guy to me would watch a band, and like we did 3 sets at this show we're talking about. And so how I would see it is, you know, first show's warm up. We're kind of going to get our groove. You know, I did my vocal warm ups. These guys did some guitar chop warm ups, excuse me. But you know, the sound guy kind of pays attention. As we start hitting the gas, he starts mixing with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if the fader's down on that first set, as we start bringing it up, he can kind of mix in things a little bit more, and you know, add that layer to the show, and that's an incredibly important thing. So you can have the best band in the world up there, and if the sound guy's not a part of that show, it's not about whether he's good or not. It's if he's not a part of that show, it's not going to be a good show.
Absolutely.
You know, it's part of their job and their skill set to sit there and watch the band and go, oh, okay, the guitar solo is coming up. Let me kick him up a notch.
Yeah.
You know, I know he's going to need a little bit more put up, so let me put him up a little bit.
Yeah.
Or in our case, if the amps aren't mic'd, maybe bring everything down in the mix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
And the I think a thing to navigate there is most bands aren't really thinking about or armed with the knowledge that, like, you know, those stage monitors, you know, if they get too loud, you're going to get feedback, right?
Yep.
And so, you know, a lot of times, and I think it's kind of on both parties. I mean, it should be on the sound person, but oftentimes I don't think of it. Like when you get up there and you're like, hey, can I get more guitar in the monitor? You know, the sound person's going to immediately go to their knob and like turn it clockwise, right? Turn it up. But I think a way to navigate that would be, you know, I mean, first of all, like the sound person should just be aware of stage volume and what it is.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Yeah.
if they're telling you like, well, you know, I don't have any more room to give you, you know, you could try something like, well, can I get less vocal then?
Yep.
You know, because then they're going to go in and they're going to
that's
start
very
turning
true.
it down, and they're going to, like, that stage volume goes down now.
Yeah.
And language is stupid.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
Yep.
And, you know, I mean, like, it shouldn't be so hard to communicate with a human being with a very similar brain to yours in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's difficult when you're trying to protect someone's ego because, like, as a sound person, it's like, you know, you want the mix to sound good. And you want people to be like, hey, it sounds great. And, like, nothing pisses me off worse than when someone, like, pokes their head in the booth and is like, can you like take down the guitars or make them less harsh or like whatever it is that night that,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, like the amateur sound person. And like, it's hard being told how to do your job.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's also one thing that I appreciate about a lot of other cultures is like a lot of cultures will just be direct and be like, hey, do this, please. And it's not
Yeah.
like, oh, you hurt my feelings. Just like, okay, I will do that, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
And I think we've kind of gotten into this mode of like, you know, everyone's made out of flowers and we need to,
Yeah. Right.
we need to ask things in the kindest way possible. And instead of being direct and just saying like, here's the issue, how do we fix it
Yeah.
in a completely clinical way, you know, we've learned to really mix our ego into it and just kind of like attach meaning where there is none.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think too, it should work vice versa. Like if I'm going to a sound guy and I'm like, hey man, like I feel like I can't really hear the vocals when I walk out into the audience and that.
Mhm.
And he comes back and he's all like, well, I think you need to turn down your mids a little bit because it's kind of taking that room where the vocals kind of lie
Sure.
or whatever it is. I'm probably not even saying that EQ right, but
I was going to let you go with it because it's the
yeah.
logic is sound and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That, like
And
that works.
And it's
Right.
that thing like, hey, like your amp is like really harsh on the ears. We should take your treble down.
Yeah.
And it should work both ways. Like, hey man, could we tighten that snare up a little bit? It should work both ways because you want to give the audience the best show, but so does the sound guy.
Yeah.
Because, you
Yep.
know, both of you are banking on that.
Yeah.
Because if, the crowd's not happy with one or the other, you don't have a job there anymore. So it's more or less you got to have this understanding of like, if he tells you something, you need to listen. And if you tell him something, he needs to listen to and not let your egos get intertwined.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would make the argument that like if you're a sound person, you should know how to EQ a guitar. You should know how to EQ a vocal. And like I don't think the band should have to worry about being like, hey man, can you like scoop out the mids from my guitar a little bit to give the vocals some space? Like that should be kind of a given.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think as a band, you can learn to kind of critically listen to yourselves as a band and be like, okay, well, is one thing too quiet? Because a lot of times it's like, well, I hear a ton of guitar, so will you turn up the vocal? But maybe it's, I hear a ton of guitar, I should turn the guitar down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, people don't realize that like, a PA or a stage mix or whatever, like there's only so much volume with which to play with. And, it's, especially if you're mixing at like a bar or a club where you're not the only sound person that's running that board, maybe like start from zero, zero out the board, go back in and like, it sucks to tailor a mix to a band each time. But if you both want your mixes to sound good and you want like the band to be pleased with you, then like, again, you got to put in the work, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, into it, it should be an understanding between the sound guy and the venue owner as well, because as a sound guy, you do have to communicate with the venue owner when they're like, hey, like the band was a little too loud yesterday, like people couldn't talk.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to compromise, but you've also got to fight for, you know, what you believe in. If you're like I couldn't do anything because if I turned down lower than that, we wouldn't have the show that was given to you, and things like that. Like you're making this experience for the crowd the best,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes the venue owners are trying to, you know, please this one person that they're thinking of versus the group that you saw, and you get lost in that communication. And,
yeah.
you know, sometimes you gotta prove your point and like kind of fight for your point.
Yeah.
And that works with bands to sound guys and sound guys to bands too. Sometimes you gotta like talk it out. You know, don't be rude about it. You're working with these people. Like
Mm-hmm.
working relationships should also be based on, you know, you're talking to each other and you're compromising. It's, you know, exactly like a relationship of any kind.
Just a human dynamic in general.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's important to live by the words like educate and communicate.
Yep.
You know,
Sure.
you know, like I was thinking about this last gig we did. You know, I was like, well, something we could do as a band is in some sort of a way find where you can walk up sound and go, hey, so this is our sound. This is what we go for. If it's naming a few bands, having a YouTube video ready or something to ease and to educate them on like, this is what we're going for. And they can go,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay. You know, cause like, I went up to him and I was like, hey, do you have a little bit of reverb to put on my voice? It's like, oh, we have no effects, which, you know, wasn't like necessarily heartbreaking to me. Like would have been ideal to have a little bit of effects, but you know, your board doesn't have it. Your board doesn't have it. But I thought about when if he would have been like, well, how much reverb do you want? What kind of sound are you going for? I would have sat there and been like, I don't know, just a little bit. And it's like, that does him no good.
Skosh? Do you have the Skosh reverb on there?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so he's going to be sitting there just guessing and hoping, well,
Yep.
I hope this is what he thinks a little bit is. And so,
Yeah.
you know, there's an importance of the educate and communicate. You know,
Mhm.
if we talk to each other and we educate each other, like Nick said, he's like, I don't know if I use the right term there for the guitar versus the vocals, cutting out the mids. It's like all the sound guy can do is go, oh yeah, no, coming from the sound world, this is what we would do in that scenario, and this is
Mhm.
why. And you can go, oh, okay.
Yeah, now
Next
I know
gig-
that for future
Yeah,
gigs.
next gig I know what to say, you know, and it's you know, it's not hurting anyone's egos, and it's about learning and growing, because it's that bigger theme of like, you know, it helps everyone out, because the analogy I would use is that if you're cooking food, your fire is your fuel, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to put on a show. If I can't hear myself as a vocalist, all I'm going to do is sound horrible probably, and I'm probably going to hurt my voice trying to push to hear myself. You know, I've done that before.
Yeah.
And same with guitars, you're going to hurt your hands because you're going to try and play harder.
Yep.
You know, you're not going to worry about dynamics because all you're thinking is, oh man, you can't hear me. I'm not worried about turning it down for those softer parts.
Yeah.
So it's like your fire when you're cooking. If you just crank it up to high, you're going to burn your food. You know, and it's about finding that balance, but you got to work at that balance with each other to really get it there, you know?
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, kind of going back to like the band marketing thing to kind of wrap it up. Like what have you guys been like, do you actively still reach out to venue owners or club owners?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll jump in here. So something that I'm going to be doing soon is I had a couple not super corporate jobs, but like sales jobs. Email was important and stuff, and I actually learned the value of like a proper email.
Sure.
So we got some good band photos done and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is basically, and still this format if you feel like you want, if it sounds good to you. But you know, with a lot of clubs, I mean, I've gone to, it's usually a card. Hey, contact so and so. They book our shows. If you're lucky, you'll catch them there. But if you catch people, please have stuff ready. Don't just go, hey, look up our Spotify and check out our Facebook, because they're probably not going to do that, to be honest. But also, like, I don't think people realize how obnoxious that is to go in and be like, hey, book us and let us come play for you.
Yeah.
But you need to go look us up and figure out and find out about us. So
put the effort into booking my band, please.
Yeah, exactly. But like the email thing, what I'm going to do is, you know, we just got band photos back and everything. So I'm laying out the format, and it'll go kind of such as that, you know, hey, it's Heavy from Black Magic Caravan. We're a rock and roll band. We deem ourselves open top rock and roll. So we'll include that in there. Have a band photo that actually shows what we look like, gives a good idea of our image and what we're about and everything. and then have music in there. But again, I would recommend maybe like a YouTube video or something that's pre-loaded into the email.
Embedded.
Yes, exactly. Not a link that may or may not work and whatnot.
Sure.
Always verify that, by the way, that your links work. Because
send an email to yourself.
Yeah, I've sent emails out and they go, "Hey, where's your logo?" Oh, sorry, let me send you another email with the logo that works this time.
Yeah.
But anyways, it'll have band photo or photos, whatever you prefer. Have whatever songs you want in there. And then like we've got some covers, because when you do longer gigs, guys, you got to do covers. You got to. I get it. We're rock and roll bands, original music. We're all about it, but you got to have some covers.
Yep.
We'll have our set list in there of covers that we know that we're willing to play. And then you put that process so that who's ever going through to look at you guys, they're going to pull up that email and go, oh, this is what they look like. This is what they sound like. Cool. This is the songs they have. This is how long they can play. This is what they expect to get paid, or whatever else you want to include in there.
Yeah.
It's all done, and they can just respond back, hey, here's the date. Here's the time. This is how many songs we want you to play. We like these few songs you listed. Here's what we'll pay you. See you then.
Yeah.
Yep.
So these are all things that, like, I mean, when people are like, man, I just want to get booked by a label, blah, 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 blah. I mean, going back and like just listening to all the things you've talked about, like, you know, like taking out loans, that's what a record label does, right?
Absolutely.
Like, they are basically issuing you a loan for studio time, and then you actually don't get paid until the record label gets that money back.
Exactly.
Right.
And then the PR, like the marketing, like these are all things that you guys have been like, well, I can do that.
Exactly.
You know, like you're describing a digital media packet. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
when people used to send out like a brochure and a CD to a record label or whatever.
Yeah.
Now it's an email with all that stuff embedded in it.
Yep.
Right.
You don't have to pay for a public relations person or a manager as long as you're thoughtful about it. Like you have been. You've been very thoughtful about your promotion. Professional. I guess that kind of ties into thoughtful.
Yeah, professional's huge.
And just bust your ass.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and kind of to hit on Dylan's point about the email too, like for bar owners, I kind of found out about this because I ordered a Pliny album off of like Bandcamp or something. But it, instead of giving me a CD, it came as this card that actually like part of it folds out and it's a USB.
Oh, okay. I've seen those.
Yeah. So like having something like that as your business card to give just to like venue owners and like whatever record labels or whoever shows up at your show that you want to work with in the future, you give that to them. It has some live videos.
Yeah.
It has pictures of crowd turnouts. It has pictures of you on stage. Like, it has your song lists in it, like previous set lists or whatever, like cover list, and then like original list and time limits on all of them, so they can see how much time it is.
Yep.
Like past promotions and stuff like that. Like you should give them this so they look at it, they plug it into their computer, and they're like, "This is what this band does."
Yeah.
Right off the bat. I didn't even say I'd book them, but this is what they've given me right off the bat. Imagine what they're gonna do when I book them.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
So,
a couple of things I want to hit on there to extend Nick's point is that, you know, it's cool to be in a rock and roll band and not care, right? Like bands like Motley Crue and Guns and all those guys, and even Aerosmith and Stones, they convince you that their careers were built on the house of just being careless and it all just happening. And that's not the case. I mean, you pick up those books, read about those guys. They were very involved in the process of their marketing and playing those gigs and being on the road. Like, I read Pantera, Rita's Dimebag's longtime girlfriend. She talked about how she would keep calendars. And when Vulgar Display of Power was out, that was their album that went number one. That she on the calendar had that they were only off the road for 20 days.
Wow.
The entire year. Now, to clarify, that wasn't 20 days in a row. That was spread out over the 365.
Yeah.
You know, you got to hustle, you got to work, and being able to be professional and then get on the stage and then not care and put on a show in that sense and just do your thing and go up there and perform with all the energy and work and everything you've done up until that point, that's what's going to make you cool and make you stand out to people.
Absolutely.
You know, showing up late, all those kind of things. No one's that cool.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
There's the persona of who you are, and then there should be the human who's detached from that persona and is like respectful and like remembers their roots and is a professional, because I mean, look where that's gotten people who became their persona. Like
Exactly.
Well, Ozzy Osbourne. So his actual name, I think it's Osman. No, it's It's like Osmond Johnson.
I would have guessed
or
Oswald
or something like that.
Yeah.
But I watched an interview where he talked about he did the Ozzy Osbourne. That's exactly why. because he started and he would play, and then he's like, I couldn't detach. I would just do the same thing and be the same guy. And then I did the Ozzy thing, because what happened is when I was on the road and I toured and I did interviews, I could be Ozzy. And then when I stepped out, I went to normal life. I was, whatever his real name is.
Yeah.
Which I should know Ozzy Osbourne's real name. It's Ozzy Osbourne, but
I don't know it. I mean, then that also kind of brings up the point, like, I mean, I've never really been recognized on the street for the persona I don't have, but like, hey, you're Ozzy Osbourne. Oh no, you're wrong. I'm Oswald Johnson. Like, it gives you a chance to just kind of like step away and escape and like reconnect with like who you are, where you came from, what's actually important to you.
Well, and I mean, that's a big thing with this life is you've got to live two lives simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you've got to put into work to make both work. And it sounds like a lot of work, but it's that whole thing. Like, you go to the gym every day, eventually it's going to become normal. It's going to become easy.
Yeah.
So it's just getting that, separating them, and on certain things keeping them separated, but on other things realizing when you should go back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, because inside us as musicians, it's always there. It's our passion, right? It's just in our blood. Like, there's nothing you can do to get rid of it. Like, you could try and work a 9 to 5, but you're going to pull your hair out and end up back, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the world isn't like that. And you have to understand that as you do these things and you grow and you build your crowds and your fan base, that's the world allowing you to have that space to do that. But real life isn't always that feeling you have inside, and it's good to have that separation. You need that. It'll give you more power for sure.
That's awesome. Cool. I mean, I think that's a good note to end on. I appreciate you guys coming and talking to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anytime.
We'll post some links in the show notes to your work. The new single's called Cash.
Yep.
You are, again, Heavy and Nick from Black Magic Caravan.
Yep.
How do people find you?
Facebook.
Yep. We're on Facebook, Instagram. We're on Spotify, Apple Music and iTunes, YouTube, Google Play, TikTok, like Deezer,
all the other
You're everywhere.
stuff.
Yeah, and all of them are just Black Magic
Everything's
Caravan.
Black Magic Caravan. Yep.
Awesome.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and if you ever need to contact us, you can find our info on our Instagram and in our Facebooks.
Yeah.
Well,
and again, email is just blackmagiccaravan@gmail.com.
Great.
We respond super quick. Any sort of promo stuff, event interest, shoot us an email. We're all about it.
Yep.
Awesome. We'll post links to all that in the show notes. So Thanks, guys, for coming and spending the time to talk to me today.
Yeah.
Fast Attack Slow Release is brought to you by Performance Audio. If you want to join in the conversation, you can just email me directly, nate@performanceaudio.com. We'd love to hear from you. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks, guys. Here's Cash from Black Magic Caravan.